Just very quick, Sudhi, remind me where you're calling from today.
I'm calling from Atlanta.
Atlanta, nice. Is it like actually the autumn is here, right? The like yellow trees, all this stuff.
That's right. A lot of the fall is here. Leaves are falling. Backyard is getting real nasty with all the fallen leaves. I keep blowing my backyard and front yard every other day. So yeah, it's
You
fun.
know, like originally from Ukraine, like this is where you have all the four seasons. And
Yeah,
then we moved to Cyprus, where I spent like 3 years thinking like no weather change much, like no the slivers falling, etc. Now
yeah,
I'm like more a year living in San Mateo, and the same like I see the trees are yellow. It's so fun. I don't know. I
it's
know
great.
it's cold weather, but still it's so great to see that is
I
like
hear you. I hear
change.
you. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
originally from India, and we also have four seasons over there. Didn't quite see a lot of the fall, sort of the leaves falling as such. Autumn obviously was an important season, great weather. I grew up in Delhi, but not much of a fall. But in the last 25 years that I've been here, I mean, this has been a regular experience, right? Blowing the leaves.
so thank you so much to joining this morning conversation to my again LinkedIn channel. Hope we will restream later to yours, guys. For our audience who doesn't know, the in general, PMG is a great partner with Terra, where they helps a lot of the companies to look kind of from the new angle to their businesses, and Sudi in particular a really great pricing expert. What helps again the companies to reimagine their pricing strategy and pricing tactics, and I just engaged with Sudi to had an amazing conversation today around AI and pricing. And yeah, want to join Sudi.
Absolutely excited for this. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, guys, as you remember, we keep it quite short because I know you're grabbing right morning, running some around in the Friday morning, and I just want to really drop on the Sudi top questions on my mind. Sudi here that as AI is changing everything, but same time enterprises are super lagging on those changes. Can you drop kind of your field view, like why it happens, maybe in general from KPMG standpoint of view, like why enterprise are really lagging on adoption of AI, which is with us already past 3 years, right? Yeah, just in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one. But maybe just before I address your question, so obviously I think we value this partnership immensely, Alex, with Competera, and hope to do great things together. I run the pricing topic for KPMG in the US, and I've been doing this for the last 25 plus years, 20 of which have been in sort of a consulting environment. And I think increasingly, particularly in the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of foray into the AI world with a ton of different use cases. And the use case I think that has been most useful really depends on the sector and the industry. And AI and now agentic AI is sort of everywhere. But despite all of this, I think the single largest sort of bottleneck that we see why enterprises haven't been able to orchestrate the change as rapidly as sort of the evolution of AI is really based on some sort of a lack of trust in the recommendations, especially from the people whose judgment you're augmenting, right? So, just from a retail parlance, Alex, if you think about, if you have store managers, merchants, or pricing teams, and they believe that AI is a black box that'll judge them or quietly replace them, they'll ignore it. They'll work around it, or maybe even sabotage it, right? You still have a live model, but no real adoption. The instinctive response is more, companies would basically engage more in training, more slideware on the algorithm, but that doesn't really fix the emotion. The most powerful single step that I've seen is, companies that have done this really well in terms of incorporating that trust is, you pick one critical role, let's say category managers, and you turn a handful of them into AI design partners, not end AI design partners. So bring them into shaping the rules and the guardrails. You perhaps like codefine what a good recommendation looks like, make their wins visible, For example, this margin lift came from Joe's category plus the AI guidance. Now, what ends up happening is, like, when people see that people who use the tool become more valuable, not less, the trust shifts quickly. You move from a world where it's AI versus me to AI with me.
With me. Cool.
Exactly. So I think the short soundbite there is really the killer bottleneck is trust. And the fastest fix is to stop treating users as recipients and make them co designers of the AI. They become champions instead of skeptics, I guess.
Perfect. That is, guys, also the huge topic. When I see Sudi, honestly, your conversation, early conversation with the C-suite executives, again, we are openly talking here about the problems. That's why I feel like my audience that love that our openness and transparency. Honestly, Sudi, this what you just mentioned is exactly how we address this. We say, hey, let's run a pilot, give like a 10 stores, few categories, and see those suggestions. You can apply. We actually track like what was changed, what was applied from AI, what was changed manually. It's all fine. But guess what? On during this conversation, this require budgets and budget, for example, extra budget for those guidance. And I call this operational change management, right?
Yeah.
Especially sometimes the store operations, they overriding the prices, but you need to give one centralized thing, etc. And I see that couple of projects what we run this year and last year, the budget what actually should be allocated for this helping adopting technology was squeezed, like, and usually shot it right. Oh, you have a solution. We just pull to the managers, and they will understand somehow. Just I want to raise, guys, the importance that this third party, or for example, like Suji's team, and they need in the project. I mean, even if you buy a cool AI tool, this doesn't help you to adopt. The most of the innovations, actually, it was a quote of CTO of H&M saying, "Our
Exactly.
problem is not the technologists, it's the people between in the technology in this process." Yeah, how
100%.
does it resonate with you? Like, why it happens? Why they? How your advice for imagine that the C level listening to us, like how convince or them to really look at this kind of properly and allocate some extra budget. It's not that big, but to help third party or like OCM manager to jump in and help those adoptions.
Yeah, yeah. I think the trust angle that we just talked about and the allocation of the budgets are really intricately tied together. But I rarely see companies that are basically investing the money where their mouth is, right? And I think that's an existential crisis until I think folks become more aware of what they are. If I really think about it, Alex, I mean, I'd start by saying that specific tools which are AI based, they will change much faster than your budgeting cycle. The evolution of AI is just so fast. It's much faster than your budgeting cycle will allow you to do. And what actually endures in the long run is really a strong data foundation that your team can adapt. If you force me to say, like, if you have $100, where you're going to spend it, I would probably say you spend about 25 of that on technology and tools. So things like, platforms, models, orchestration. You probably spend a bulk of it, like almost 45, 50, on data and infrastructure, right? So cleaning the product and the location data, standardizing hierarchies, building some reliable pipelines, and then maybe another 25% on people and change around talent, training, formal change management, etc. And I think the reason that tools are the smaller slice is not because they are unimportant, Alex. It's because they are the most volatile part of the stack, given
Cool.
the evolution, right? I mean, 2 years ago, when I basically started to sort of imagine AI and starting to think through how will AI really shape the way that companies do pricing, retail or other sectors, it was such a novel concept. It was just such a new thing. And it was just, think about it, just 2 years ago. And look where we are today. Like, it is the biggest budget. It is every CXO's, every CEO's primary concern. That is the conversation that's happening in every boardroom. If there was like this word cloud that you would have, AI is the single largest word cloud in every boardroom that happens today, right? So
Perfect.
today it's one model or pricing engine. Tomorrow it's another. But if you're invested in solid data plumbing, open, well architected integration, and a team that knows how to evaluate and implement new tools rapidly and quickly and flexibly, then swapping out or adding or augmenting a new AI capability becomes an incremental decision. It's not a multi-year transformation, right? There's agility in that AI that only gets allowed because of that data foundation that you have, right?
So
Other words, in other words, I think your durable advantage isn't we brought vendor X, it's we can plug in, test and scale the next vendor X in months. And that only happens if you put serious money into data quality and people capability, not just sort of licenses. Right?
perfect. Honestly, your voice is like a music to my ears because the first thing what I every time starting like the huge slide saying data foundation, that multiple projects that's starting like hey we need this. They of course they imagine them driving this car like Formula One car. I always give this analogy, but no one was trained in the organization has a lot of leaks and the one customer we're looking for $5 billion in the data discrepancy. I mean their real sales was a $5 billion more than we can see in the charts,
Exactly.
after data transformation happens. And this is kind of very, but I just want to repeat quickly what you just said. Data foundation, that when you see the project to implement like AI, you need to see like three budget: 20%, some 25% is the tool itself, then is like 40% something is like data project, etc., and a 30 is like adoption and
Yeah.
consultancy needed for change the process. Really amazing. It actually also resonate with the CEO of Accenture. She was mentioning like the the problem of enterprise adopting AI, that they are trying to use the old process, business process with old film, trying to using AI. The process need to change, and this is because you're right. They simplify, but this doesn't mean. But people honestly they shocked when they see that something is done their work. You're absolutely right. Like in a seconds, with all this context, they like just can't imagine. They say, hey, when I got this recommendation, I need to go and check this plan with my finance team. And when
Yeah.
I say, yeah, I already checked, this AI can't generate you the price, but not following your business rules, like business constraints. And
Spot
they say,
on.
no, I will need to go and double check. And this is
Spot on.
crucial.
Spot on. Spot on, Alex. And I think I mean, the analogy that you just provided, right, the race car analogy, which is sort of close to my heart right now because I just got back from Vegas where we had a partner get together. And right now they're having the Formula One race in Vegas, right? And I was in the cab and I was asking the driver about, hey, what's happening? And all the roads are closed, etc. They take 2.5 months to basically set up the infrastructure. It's a 3.8 mile lap, right? And they do
Mhm.
50 laps, so about 190 odd miles. And to create that 3.8 mile lap, they just have to do so much. That's the data plumbing. That's the bare bones infrastructure that they need to put in place. The race only lasts an hour, right? And then you're off to the new race. And it's just the same analogy, right? Creating that infrastructure needs thinking, needs intention, needs execution, right? But once you have that, then you're well plumbed and it's flexible and you can create a different lane or you can create more laps and you can drive through with many different cars. So I think that race car analogy is actually a good one.
The good news that you don't need to disassemble all the track after you did the
Right.
data foundation. The same, you can use it then for assortment forecasting, for some
Exactly.
personalized advice. Like again, guys, the world has changed. They're like get a vectorized. Actually, what we are doing, we put the data, see that is real clean because it was a huge, honestly, back in the days, right? It was big data kind of mainstream, right? And people buying those data bricks, BigQuery, sorry, but they putting the same kind of fragmented, not organized, not cross-mapped data in there and saying they're like already like Azure or cloud company, but the data
Exactly.
foundation just moved from legacy servers to the cloud, but the quality of the data remained the same.
Spot
Yeah,
on.
it's
Yep. Yep.
not we're changing. Okay, let's go very quickly. I have a few more. This we touched this. How maybe your advice to think for CIOs and those C-level executive about some AI budget allocation, like they need how they should start thinking about that, or of course it's already too late probably in 2025 to start thinking, but what I feel some of the companies completely has zero kind of AI strategy in place, etc. Any
Yep.
of guidance here?
Yeah, no, I think I think in your last question also, I may have alluded a little bit to this, but I mean, a vast majority of the spend is really in the plumbing, right? The data and the infrastructure piece. I think that's really where most of the budget needs to go. But does it go there? It doesn't really go there. I think a vast majority of that gets on changing technology and tools and getting the new sort of shiny object that's out there in the marketplace. My advice to CIOs and whoever is spending the budget is really on spend the vast majority of your money on the data and infrastructure, and then the remainder divide that between the tools and the people and the change component of that. Because the data and the infrastructure is the more permanent side of things. The remainders are really going to be sort of, stepwise incremental improvements that you would have over time.
Perfect. I always said, like, guys, this was the mainstream for retailers, honestly, all
Yeah,
the time building their own software. I will say, guys, your main product is a data hub, data lake.
exactly,
Building
exactly.
a data lake. This is tools will change. AI changed 10 times. I like your statement, actually. I want to use it. I want your permission to use this quote that
Be my
that
guest. I'll send you a check later on.
yeah. You said, like, this is one AI, second AI. Only what the permanent is your data, like in the way how you store and the way how you can access this data in a rapid way. This is a brilliance. And then, yeah, you can plug in, plug out any tool over the years. And if you
Exactly.
remember, also back in the days, it was a huge kind of bundling thing. Like the Oracle came to the company, and you have all the solution from Oracle. And between us, I spoke with a one great head of pricing at the company with a big N starting shoes company, and he said, "Alex, you know that we are growing in Europe 10 times faster than in America." And say, you know why? And like it was about the pricing thing. And
Yeah,
because we don't use Oracle in Europe.
that's
It's
right.
like this is so slow. Like, is there any change takes like months? All this, yeah. And if you and now this is unbundling. Like you have
Yeah,
specific, and guys, the AI go verticalized, right? You will less and less use horizontal AI. It would be specific AI for the specific cases. Even if you're right now using ChatGPT, right? So you feel like
exactly.
in some cases are really bad. You need a different model, or you need to
Spot on.
give a lot of instructions and to get it.
Yeah.
I just yesterday I tried to make the with AI the cover to my podcast background, and like this is so hard. Like it's like I spent maybe 30 minutes. I can honestly in Photoshop I can done it 3 times faster,
Yeah.
because you need to explain this context what you want to achieve. Yeah, and this why when you have a foundation, what just reflect your words that you will have data, and then you can it's like unbundle. You will use definitely different software. It doesn't matter only AI. It will be some specific workflows, and you can change the vendors. And actually, you're agile, right? And you're flexible. You can change and plug out any vendor or any new solution to your kind of data hub. This is
Exactly.
amazing. Yeah, and in this last part, you mentioned also that support of the organization. Please do not. Honestly, this was my big pain. It's a huge project, multi-year RFP, then a huge adoption of first year, 3 tests.
Yeah.
Results is amazing. Like the car running like less than 3 seconds, we expect around five.
That's
All
exactly.
amazing.
Yeah.
But guess what? The people wasn't absolutely skipped OCM layer. No one was care to explain the business how it works. It was IT initiative, and they're showing all these cool dashboards, what we was great, and then always shooting emails to the leadership. Say, guys, I see this team. Everyone is focusing on cool results what model can give you on
Yeah.
like detecting this margin leaks, like small price adjustment in this cluster and that cluster. But the
Exactly.
business still doing the business. They focus on margin per one SKU, which is AI saying, hey, we need to look on the whole store, and they completely mess with the adoption. And back to your words, you know how they did OCM? The one guy with a C on his title came to the room, the pricing team, and said, you using this tool or you all fired? This his
Oh,
OCM. And he created enemies for us over like hour.
my
And
way, my way or the highway rarely ever works.
yeah, yeah. And now guess what? Since like 2 years, is a two dot categories what really well work well. This is only what we have around 17. That
Yeah.
because the team just say we don't want it. Like
Yeah.
we want our Excel, and this is Excel is best.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. I mean, you got to find champions. You can't just come in and say it's my way or the highway. You have to find champions, and they need to adopt it, and they need to succeed it. Success begets success, and once they find the success, then you have to sort of go ahead and talk about that success broadly, so people can understand, and then they start to use it and say, this is good for me. This is good for my career. This is good from the recommendations that I make. I'm going to have my sort of spotlight moment based on all the things that I'm going to do with AI. And I think it generally takes some time, like any change management exercise does, but that's the way to go about the business if you want to sustainably embed this level of change management that is so important in AI.
Perfect. I think that is when if one thing the audience want to take it from this conversation is like AI is here. You need to to make the environment that you have data,
Yeah,
then you attacking this through not you're not replacing your employees, you're enhancing their performance.
totally.
Of course, probably some adjustment will happen because you don't need that much people doing stuff with it. Everything will happen much faster, and you need to focus and help them to adopt and of course have a part of the budget the same as you have for the data to
Yeah,
adoption, because not only to buy the tool and run, there's nothing changed. Yeah, it's cool and easy, but even like easier thing is sometimes even harder to, that my wife, she's running the Brazilian Federation, and they have this instrument in Brazil, in capoeira, called birimbau. It's only one string.
Hmm.
And there's most of the people saying, that on guitar is easier to play on the six strings than on one, right? It's like it
Yeah,
looks simple, but still need to so big shift in the on the heads of the people. And honestly, I feel like most of the category managers or price managers, they
that's
used to
so
work
true.
legacy tool for years, like 10 years, 20 years, and they really, really closed.
You know,
Uh,
the maybe the other thing to look at, Alex, frankly, is like, I mean, different companies and different people are at different stages of evolution and maturity in terms of their AI adoption, right? As they use that in pricing and promo. So, but for me, I think depending on where your adoption is, it's very clear that sort of pricing and promo discipline, but not some kind of a flashy perfect price science, is probably the single largest use case that somebody can have in terms of what they want to do with this AI technology, right? And a lot of people just sort of think about AI as, this is so flashy, I can go and do like massive optimizations. Of course you can do it, but the most basic premise of this, in my mind, is to basically enhance the level of discipline, right? Most retailers, they'll jump straight to like personalization, cool customer use cases, segment of one, clearance, massive clearance optimization, which is awesome, which is great. And if you're at that maturity level, that's exactly what you should do. Meanwhile, millions of people and millions of companies and dollars are leaking out because your discounts are inconsistent. You have like overrides at the store level. Your markdown optimization timing is off. Your promos that don't drive incremental volume. So many examples, just some basic hygiene, right? So AI is very good at pattern detection, right? So they will look at which SKUs are chronically underpriced, which promos are destroying margin, which stores or banners are consistently overriding the guidance, etc. In my experience, once you go to that foundation level of the AI use case, which is to enhance your promo and pricing discipline, I mean, we routinely find like 1 to 3 percentage points of gross margin uplift, right? 100 to
yeah,
300 basis points of gross margin uplift routinely. And I'm sure that's your experience as well in terms of all the work that you've done over the last so many decades. And it's
definitely.
under prioritized because it feels operational. It does feel unglamorous to many people, right? Compared to say, I'm doing something really, really cool and jazzy and sexy, right? And I don't want to do that. So I think, I mean, of course, the fastest ROI isn't about the sexy new use cases, right? It's using AI to basically stop the everyday sort of margin leakage and pricing and promotions. It's very
Again,
foundational, right? Data foundation is important, but this foundation is also very important. Start there.
correct.
If you haven't undertaken that journey in AI, start there because that is really going to be a big unlock for you.
Yeah, also great point you mentioned. I think is important to do the double click here, guys. When I also asked that the AI will change the price by 0 point something percent,
Yeah.
it's not like a huge. They feel like again like, oh, if you that the AI will allow us to make plus 10% markup here or 20% there. It's not. Honestly, in our case, it's small guardrails where again it's always detuned to the way that to find a small leak and fix it. And some of them understand. Like, remember, there's a retail Carrefour name. He said, Alex, we know it. Like, if we change the 0.2% price for our bottle of water, like most KPI, this like already 20 plus million dollars per year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but we doesn't know how to change it in the way. And this guy is that AI is brilliant. Not expect huge changes. Again, it's not destroying you. Like it's like small, like driving assistant when you're driving your. Honestly, Tesla is amazing. I feel I just started using this last few days. This full self driving experience that they're changing the lanes so in right time just to get off from the highway, and it's so smooth, right? But the full autopilot, of course, you can't do there. But as Sudi, you mentioned very well, you start small, you start like these small adjustments again, where you safe to see, okay, find this 99, but you go to like 99, or then it's like 1899.
Yeah.
That's very, for the human brain, also looks not even available, but for company wise, that is of the dollars. This is what we are speaking about, guys. It's 2, 3 per
Exactly.
year. And this is exactly what you're looking for from the technology.
Yeah. And I think it's, I mean, if I was to, so, I mean, the theme in my head is always about get your foundation right. It's like if your elementary, middle, and high school is great, your career is going to be awesome because your foundation is really, really strong, right? So, exactly in the same manner, I think if your foundation, expectation, and use case is about enhancing more discipline, creating more sort of regular things, nothing super cool. Super cool is great, but start with managing the discipline first, building the data pipeline and the foundation. All the foundation pieces are extremely important, and this is the time to do it. I mean, it's okay for many companies to basically leapfrog and go some other place, but creating that foundation, I think, is going to be super important for a lot of companies, particularly the ones that are basically just now starting to understand the power of AI and what they can do. Start with the foundation and then go
Yeah,
to.
also the point, what I just recently discussed with one CEO, said the so-called that they will say, Alex, we like last 2, 3 years always speaking about this data foundation, but also the thing he mentioned that, and I feel he absolutely right. I start thinking from his angle. He said, when you don't have a problem to solve, for example, pricing problem, the data foundation.
Yeah, yeah,
Because a lot of the company coming like those big systems SIs he mentioned, like, hey, it's a big SIs coming say, we build data foundation. And I feel them. It's sell to the board directors saying, hey, we need to invest millions of dollars on data foundation. They say how it will reflect to our, and he has no answer. And I think the pricing projects, again, just again, telling this widely for the future reshare as well. The foundation, what needs for pricing, the same foundation what will needs for any most of your other projects, because what you
exactly.
need, transaction data, your
Yeah,
expertise, your marketing spots,
correct.
everything what actually your retail breathes every
Yep,
day.
yep,
And yeah, pricing is actually we just started with a big project. They say we select from 12 initiative. We talk that price is the most straightforward to bottom line impact. The
yeah,
price. Otherwise, like again, you can generate a lot of cool pictures or description on your products, etc. But it's like takes time and governments a lot. But price is immediately goes to your P&L. And again, what
exactly.
you just said, if you want to run, you need to run pricing or data foundation. But it's
Yep,
probably hard to run it without a real project and why you're doing so, because it would be hard to sell to the board. And they
that's right.
say if you look from the pricing angle, guys say, hey, we build this data foundation, we will reuse it for any other product. But the first thing, what we get as an outcome, we will try to identify those margin leakage on the
Exactly.
items that actually underpriced or maybe overpriced in the specific locations.
That's
And this
exactly.
can be
Yep.
done in a year. That was what we do. It was a great, it was a PMG support. Sadi, I feel like so great to have you today. I always promise my audience to keep it short, and I know how valuable your time. And thank you again for joining.
I
And
appreciate it. I really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you again for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you as always, Alex. And
thank you
thanks to
for
the
it.
audience as well.
Yeah,
All right.
Friday.